You know who I am?
Anything you say. Anything you say.
It's official.
What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Thomas back again with another rendition of Truth Be Told. Now this week, or this past week, the only thing I saw, politically wise or big news is Trump made a deal with the EU. So, these countries keep these nations, they keep eventually coming around. They try to play hardball, but they know they're screwed unless they make a deal. So he won again. He got the EU to make a deal with him. So that's literally the biggest thing I saw. I already did a review on the new Fantastic Four movie last week, so you can check it out if you want. It wasn't really that good. So as I've said before, even if you don't watch the channel regularly, and you've only seen a couple videos, or you don't watch it at all, it only takes 2 seconds to hit that subscribe button. It doesn't affect you or your channel whatsoever. It just helps this channel grow. So please subscribe. Also, I have another channel. It's called Easy Does It. The link is in the About section. Check it out if you like gaming vlogs and reviews and reactions to other YouTube channels. Okay. Again, subscribe. This week, let's get into what I really want to talk to you about. I just recently, I said I've got things coming down the pipeline. Tons of shows I've already watched, and I got to get to reviewing them each week. But I don't want to overwhelm you guys with like 3 or 4 freaking television shows I just recently got done watching. The reason why I'm going through several of them so fast is because most of them are just one season. But this week we're going to talk about a show that was done in, let's see, when was it done? 1985. And the show was called Street Hawk. Now, ABC did this show because they wanted a counter to NBC's Knight Rider. So they went a cheaper route. They decided to use a bike instead of a computerized car or whatever. Now the bike didn't talk like Kit did on Knight Rider, but it had gadgets on it. Various weapons, machine guns and lasers, whatever. I mean, they put a laser on it. And then they had like this high octane booster, so he could go like 300 miles an hour, like super fast. But it wasn't possible if it actually, in reality, if he was to go that fast, he would have killed himself. I mean, he would have crashed the bike or whatever. Now it starred Rex Smith and Joe Regal Budo. I hope that's how you pronounce his last name. Don't criticize me too much on some of these last names, because some of these people or these actors and shit, they have some weird last names. And the pilot episode had a really cutesy, good-looking chick named Jane Modine, and then which happens quite often, you'll get a pilot episode and then they'll swap out some of the original actors that play certain parts in the show with somebody else. They'll trade somebody else for them. Janine Wilson came in for her and started playing her part, which I didn't care for her. I liked the girl from the original pilot. Anyways, and she plays some like what do you call it? PR reporter for the police department. So Rex, he plays a cop, a motorcycle cop. Well, they're at the pilot episode, he gets into it with a bunch of bad guys, and they cause a wreck, and then they screw up his leg. I mean, to where he supposedly can no longer, ride a bike.
You know who I am?
Joe's character, he comes in. He's built this super computerized bike, and he needs someone to test run it on. So the government tells him to get Rex, but he says he screwed up his leg, he can no longer ride. Well, they've got some experimental procedure where they can fix his knee or leg or whatever, and he can ride. But he has to pretend to the police department, the people at the police department he works with, that he can't ride. So that's what he does. He becomes an assistant, sorta, to the news or the PR reporter for the police department, the girl. But he's hardly ever there. And then, he kind of half-ass fights with his captain or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But anyways, the captain thinks he can't. The captain's one of the people who doesn't think he can ride anymore, but in actuality he can. And basically it's a crime fighting show. He goes around on his little super bike and takes out the bad guys. Now a lot of it's questionable, of course. He's doing the same stunts over and over where he's jumping shit. He's using his little laser a lot. I think he uses a couple machine guns a couple of times, but it's mainly the laser. And he does the fast thing quite often. The speed, 300 miles an hour, turbo boost. But, I mean, it's really cheesy. But it was a decent show. It was all right. It was worth a one-time watch. I have to say, you had some decent actors in it. The storylines weren't all that bad. You know, typical, you know, crime fighting, 80s crime fighting show. But I highly recommend it for at least a one-time watch. Definitely give it a go if you like crime fighting and you don't mind a little 80s cheese, because like I said, there was some questionable stuff in it, of course, like some of the stunts and the, you know, him using some of the weapons. You know, they can't ever, you know, the bad guys can't ever hit the hero or take out the good guy. He's always taking them out, even though they're blatantly like 20 feet away from each other, shooting at each other with machine guns, point blank. You know what I mean. They're not very far away from each other, and they're shooting machine guns at each other. But he never gets hit, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? That went on for a long time, up to the 2000s. You know, from the 70s to the 2000s. But anyways, I give it 2 thumbs up. It was actually a pretty decent show. It wasn't bad. Like I said, yeah, I highly recommend it for, you know, if you're looking for something to watch that isn't this, you know, the crap that comes out today where everything's, you know, unrealistic femboss crap, you know. You got a female lead every freaking show, and she's like this femboss who can kick everybody's butt, you know, kind of crap. So dumb. But anyways, check it out if you want. Let's get on to your B-movie reviews. Alright, Movieholics. This week is Fantasy Week. And I took a couple of, you know, late 80s and early 2000 TV shows that were movies. They were like miniseries. The first one is called Merlin, which most people have heard of. It stars Sam Neill and Miranda Richardson. Now, it's basically, you know, the story of King Arthur for the most part. But what it does is it tries to go back and tell the story of Merlin and his beginnings and him leading up to Arthur and all that kind of crap. Everything that went on in his life. Now this show is like they did a 2-part show. Each part was about, I don't know, all in all, the show's over 3 hours long. I watched it in its entirety. It's almost 4 hours. It's 3 hours and something. Taking out all the commercials and crap from back then. But Sam Neill plays Merlin, and he's created by Queen Mab, which is kind of like a pagan witch goddess or some shit like that. She's like the Fae Queen or some shit. She has a sister, twin sister, who lives in the lake, and she's the Lady of the Lake. Of course, most people have heard the story. Now, Merlin meets this woman named Naomi or some shit like that. And Nimue. That's her name, Nimue. Anyway, he meets this girl. He falls head and over heels for her. She likes him too. But they don't get together till way later. Years go by before they get together. But they meet fairly early on when they're teenagers. Merlin is raised by this woman, older woman, what she calls Auntie A or some shit like that. And she ends up dying. Just before she dies, a few years before she dies, Merlin's able to do magic. And then so Queen Mab comes to get him to teach him how to learn magic, because she wants the people to start believing in, or come more to the pagan side and believing in the old ways in her, because too many are believing in Christianity or converting to Christianity. She don't like that, so she creates Merlin. His mother dies during childbirth, and she tells the woman who he calls Auntie May, or Auntie A, or some shit like that, that when he starts doing magic, he's got to go with her to learn magic, which he does. But after a few years go by, he goes back. Martin Short is in this too. He plays like some magical gnome that works for Queen Mab. Anyways, Merlin, he goes back just in time for her to die. Auntie A, or whatever the fuck you want to call her. But she dies, but not before he finds out that it was Queen Mab could have saved his mother but let her die. He could have saved Auntie A, but she let her die too. So he gets pissed off at her, tells her to, she says he's got to go back and finish his studies. He basically tells her to piss off. He's not going to do any more magic. He's not going to learn anymore. And she'll never be able to break his vow for that. But she eventually does. She tries to kill Nimue with a dragon. Instead, it just scars her, burns her face. And Merlin could have saved her too, but he fucked it up. Instead, he takes her to a monastery, a priest, monks, whatever. He takes her to there, and they heal her and take care of her. She doesn't ever, throughout the show, she doesn't want to leave. She don't want to face society with a burnt face. So, she stays there at the monastery through most of the show. Now, Queen Mab eventually comes and makes a deal with her, telling her that her and Merlin can live happily ever after, alone in the woods, and never have to worry about people again, if she convinces him to go there and stay with her. And she at first tells her to piss off, but later on she eventually makes the deal as time's running out and they're getting older. Arthur or Merlin goes through the whole Rutger Howard King. I forget what his name is, but he goes through that. It watches him die and helps Pendragon, Uther Pendragon, take the throne. And then he does the whole Uther Pendragon, sleeps with this guy's wife or whatever because he's lusting after her. And then, which becomes of Arthur. Then he starts helping Arthur out once he gets older. Mind you, all this time, Merlin's not aging normally. He's aging very slowly. He's living a lot longer than he's supposed to. Anyway, and then he helps Arthur. And then Queen Mab, she tricks Arthur into sleeping with his sister, or half-sister, basically. I can't, man, that's irritating me. Her name's at the tip of my tongue. I can't think of her name. Morgana. His sister Morgana. Which creates, of course, Mordred. And then Mordred, he attacks Arthur and they kill each other, blah, blah, blah. Merlin comes and deals with the situation. And then, he returns. It's not him that's supposed to return the lake to or the sword to the lake, but in this case, he does. He returns Excalibur to the Lady of the Lake, which she had given to him for Arthur. Or actually, it was Pendragon at first, and then Arthur. Because he gets Pendragon and put it in the sword in the stone, which is this giant made out of stone. The Rock of Ages is what he calls himself. But Arthur eventually comes and takes the sword out and becomes king. And yeah, you know the rest. But at the end, he loses Nimue because of the Arthur dying or whatever. He thinks he needs to go to him and help him as he dies. And Nimue isn't able to convince Merlin to stay with her because of it. She just doesn't say anything to him. And then she gets trapped in this spell by Queen Mab. And he can't get to her. Now later on, Queen Mab dies. Doesn't die. Just everybody supposedly forgets about her. And the spell that was on Nimue, it falls apart. And Martin Short, who's now human, Morgana dies. And Queen Mab takes his powers or whatever. He's just a normal gnome now with no magical powers. He's grown old. He comes and tells Merlin at the end of the movie, that the spell that was holding him away falling apart. So he goes to Nimue, and that's the end of the movie. You know, they happily ever after, blah, blah, blah. Like I said, it was a long movie. For a TV movie, a fantasy TV movie, yeah, I had some couple of cheesy effects in it or whatever, you know, CGI or whatever you want to call it. But it was a decent movie. I like Sam Neill. You had some decent actors in this, so it wasn't terrible. It was just cheesy. I would highly recommend giving it a one-time watch. I give it 2 thumbs up. It was a decent flick. I liked it. Check it out if you want. Alright, let's get on to the next one. Now the next one, they claim it's a sequel, but it's not really a sequel to Merlin. It's called Merlin's Apprentice. It was done in 2006. It starred John Reardon and Megan Ory, and of course Sam Neill and Miranda Richardson. They come back to reprise their roles. Miranda is Lady of the Lake, and Merlin, of course, is Merlin, or Sam Neill is Merlin. But the story's different. It's not the same story. This kid, he has magical powers. You don't know how he got them, but he's a thief. So at the beginning of the movie, he goes around stealing a bunch of stuff, and he gets caught by Sam Neill, Merlin, and eventually becomes his apprentice. Now at the beginning of the movie, it shows Merlin go to sleep in his cave. He has this cave after he helps Arthur form the Knights of the Round Table, blah blah blah. He thinks Arthur's got it and he'll take care of things, and he's only supposed to sleep for like a year or so. He calls it a season, but instead he ends up sleeping for 50 years because of Queen Mab, or not Queen Mab, but she's the Lady of the Lake in this one. You know, she kind of forces herself on him to have a child, and they end up having a son, which eventually you find out is his apprentice. Merlin finds this out just a little bit before he ends up dying. Queen Mab, or God, I keep wanting to call her Queen Mab, but the Lady of the Lake, she wants to destroy Camelot. So she has this army that was done wrong by this merchant that worked for Camelot or whatever, blah blah blah. They pick up a girl, their daughter. I think it's their daughter. They use the daughter and claim that she's the long descendant, Gwen, or I think it's Gwen or Gallahan or whatever, Gerwin or whatever the fuck his name is. Anyways, she's the long descendant of him, so these merchants claim, him and his wife. But in reality, it was a lie. They're con men. But anyways, she uses this army of people that was done wrong by them, who worked for Camelot, you know, collecting trade, taxes, whatever. You eventually find this out way later in the movie. But for the first half of the movie. This is another two-parter. It's over 3 hours long, just like the first one. It's a little mini-series. The first part of the movie isn't bad. It's not that bad. It's okay. It's cheesy. It reminds me of like an old 90s television show. The 90s had some really bad TV, like Hercules and shit. It was kind of like that, Xena, Hercules. That's what it reminded me of. But anyways, moving on with the story. At the end of the first round, Merlin supposedly dies. And then the rest of Camelot, they gotta flee because the invading army destroys Camelot, so they gotta take off. And throughout the entire second half, they're supposedly running, the whole town or city or whatever is running from this army in the forest, looking for the Holy Grail. Yeah, the Holy Grail. Supposedly Camelot had the Holy Grail, and it's what kept the city together. So now it's been lost, and now they're trying to find the Holy Grail. I mean, throughout even the first part, Merlin's trying to find the Holy Grail, and he can't seem to find it. But in the second half, they're fleeing through the entire second half. They're fleeing from this army and looking for the Holy Grail. Now, supposedly, the Sorcerer's Apprentice finds the Holy Grail, but the Lady of the Lake has some water monster guarding it. So they can't get to it. The invading army and Camelot, they eventually clash. They kill each other. But before that happens, he takes the king, the now supposed king, and takes him into, gets him into, it's behind this waterfall or some shit, to this cave behind the waterfall that has the Holy Grail. Now the king is impure. He's not pure of heart. And the Holy Grail won't serve anyone who's not pure of heart. But he grabs the Holy Grail anyway, and it kills him. And then the Sorcerer's Apprentice grabs the Holy Grail and then wishes, the whole mess of the two armies killing each other to be undone. Which happens. And then he gives the Holy Grail to this other guy who he thinks is, dedicated to making Camelot what it once was. And everybody starts calling him king. So, that's the end of that. At the very end, it shows the Sorcerer's Apprentice. He's able to go to the land of the dead to speak to his father, Merlin. And that's literally the end of the movie. Everybody lives happily ever after. They got a new king and queen and yada 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 yada. Anyways, like I said, the first half of this mini-series wasn't bad. But then the second half was just terrible. They're literally in the woods almost the entire 2 hours. They're literally in the woods. There's very little people. Like you would expect to see a whole bunch of people in Camelot and the city and everything. No, it's just a small group of people. And you're just like, where's everybody at? Why is it just, like 20 people on the screen at any given time? Max, It was, I don't know. I just thought this one was terrible. I didn't care for it. I don't recommend it because it was not good. But yeah, if you want to watch it, go ahead and watch it. I give it 2 thumbs down. I did not care for the Sorcerer's Apprentice at all. I thought it was terrible. Even though it had Sam Neill in it, I didn't care for it. It sucked. Alright, so that's all I have for you this week. If you have any thoughts about what I talked about earlier in the video, please leave your thoughts down in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear from you. If you could think of any, if you have any suggestions or think of any B-rated or really movies that you think I've never even have heard of before, please leave your suggestions down in the comment section down below. I'll get to reviewing them as soon as I can. So, until next time, I told you to be told the truth, and you've just been told.